let us welcome Karen Fassio, co-founder of Women in Cloud, who will lead our next panel on navigating the complexities of cloud B2B partnerships. Where are the speed bumps? What do we need to look out for? Let's look at that. Let's look at that navigation. Karen, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you since brunch in Seattle. I hand it to you to navigate this interesting and insightful panel. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. So great conversation about all the things that matter for considering B2B as a strategic route to market. We hear hyperscalers like Microsoft refer to this as P2P, partner to partner. And so with me today, we do have a panel of experts here who can share their insights on how to create effective B2B partnerships despite all the complexities of doing so. We definitely want to raise attention to the fact of the complexities because they are there. And we can be best armed for making sure we're tuned to the right opportunities when we put some planful thinking behind that. Maybe what I'll first do is just start by let's just introduce ourselves to the community. And why don't I start first with you, Dina? If you could talk a little bit about your company, Partner Optimizer, and what you do through that solution.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Dina Moskowitz. I'm founder and CEO of a B2B SaaS company called Partner Optimizer. And everything we do all day long is data mine and provide better, faster ways to discover partners and view insights about partner companies. So it's great to be here along with this conversation and see how the rest of the community is looking at partnerships and what the importance of partner data and the foundational aspects of it.
Excellent. And thank you, Dina. And Allison, how about you?
Hey, sure. I'm so delighted to be back here. Thanks for having me. Allison Mcfadden, and I lead our Accenture AWS business group for Accenture in the U.S. Northeast. I'm delighted to be here.
Excellent. Thank you, Allison. And Kate, I'm just kind of going around the screen here. Kate, you could.
Yeah, sure. Great to be on with everyone. Thank you for having me today. So Kate Mayer, I lead demand generation for Insight Solutions business. We're a global solutions integrator. Great to be here with everyone.
Thank you, Kate. And Unati.
Hi, super excited to be with this group. I work with Kate at Insight. We handle the GTM specifically with hyperscaler partnerships, which is Microsoft.
Excellent. Wonderful. So maybe we can just start with a little bit of context setting. This event happens to be on the heels of the Microsoft Inspire event, though I know there were many other, lots of discussion about ecosystem, lots of discussion about partnerships going on in our industry right now. So the timing of this conversation is awesome and excellent. But I think there's a lot of signals that we're starting to hear, and they're coming through loud and clear. I think they've been murmuring for a couple of years, and now the flywheel, the first tightest crank on that flywheel is really starting to move. And that's looking at how investments are moving to execution, consumption, outcome-driven objectives. That we're seeing investments in moving into POCs and executions, alignment into industries, the emphasis on marketplace, and all the things that become embodied through a marketplace engine. It's sort of the center of all things that are going to be B2B related. And then, just speaking on the Microsoft announcements of bringing forward multi-partner or multi-party private offers, which I know these capabilities exist in other platforms like AWS's marketplace platform. So there are all these signals that are telling us that partnerships, the opportunity for P2P is there and being instrumented and reinforced through all of these different channels of growth. And so, in our discussion today, we definitely want to talk about, how do we get ourselves ready for that and think strategically about the wiring, the systems, the agreements, the way that we choose our partnerships so that we can actually take advantage of this opportunity together with the least amount of friction. So let's just launch into some of our questions that we've prepared for this discussion. And I definitely invite anybody on the panel to jump in if you've got some insights to also share. But to get things going, Dina, I'd love to throw this one out to you first. As we've been seeing all of these new signals arise and all of these new opportunities coming through, the promise is there, and we can be very optimistic about that. But we also know there could be some shared pain points as well as we're going into this new territory. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in this and what you've seen as pain points that can be in the way of a successful B2B partnership?
Sure, I'd love to. And I see all sorts, and I'll try to just focus on one or two. One of them is that at the very start of building your partnership program or your intent to partner is not having enough clarity and strategy and understanding intentionally upfront on who you want to partner with to achieve your goals. And so we talk about it in my world as the ideal partner profile. If you don't know upfront who your ideal partner is to go and partner with and go to market with, you're going to be wasting so much time and energy barking up the wrong tree and trying to engage partners who really can't help you achieve your goals. And so by knowing upfront who that ideal partner is, what are their characteristics? What are they not? Are they working with competitors already? Are they working with products that are already complementary to yours? So it's really do that exploration. And don't just get excited because you know someone at a potential partner company, but really think through who those ideal partners are and be intentional going forward. And I see a lot of you shaking your head on that. So maybe I just open up the dialogue for your discussion there.
Yeah, thank you. I think so. I think we're all ready to jump in on that one. So, Nana, why don't I go to you first, and then we'll go to Allison.
Sure. So I think I agree. There has to be clear alignment, but also what becomes important is how do you implement it? How does it get rolled out at every different level of partnership? I mean, we can sign off partnerships at the corporate level, but if it doesn't result at the field, then it's not a successful partnership. And that's what we realized, especially with somebody as large as Microsoft, when you work with different levels of partnerships with them, you need to ensure there's a clear sales alignment, clear goals alignment. There are different P2P partnerships also come and play here. So very rightly said that if there's an intention, I think let's just probably add it with execution as well. Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. And Unadi, what you said, this is the reason I love my job and I love these roles, because there's a huge amount of complexity and there's a huge amount of strategy and a huge amount of execution. It's all getting right. And back to Dina's point, there's intentionality with what slice of the market are you going to go after together. So how does your product and or service align? There's intentionality with incentives and field engagement, right? How do we make money? How does everybody make money? That's what we're trying to do together, right? How do we make money? And then there's also this intentionality around engagement. And you have to have a strategy not only for your product, but you have to have a strategy for how do you get your stakeholders to engage. Working in these partnership spaces, you get close to it and you assume that everybody understands what you do.
Hey, Allison, I'm sorry, your microphone is really muffling your voice.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Okay.
So.
I'll go.
But closer works. Closer, yeah. We're hearing you.
That's a bit better, yeah.
Right
Yeah.
yeah. I'll put my headphones on.
That's what I got.
So
I think those are. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, well, you go ahead on that thought because I want to bring up a sort of a segue to a different type of partnership.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think those are all really valid and important points. And I think that the approach too, I think when you think through kind of that core intentionality is really working client out versus campaign or program in, right? So thinking through like, what are those challenges we can jointly solve for and uniquely bring together in a joint partnership for clients, really keeping that like front and center as part of a strategy is super important, and I think is always really effective. So I'll hand it over to Dina.
Yeah, and those are great points. I wanted to bring up that, especially for a lot of smaller companies that may be newer emerging SaaS technologies, it's not always, there are other partners out there besides the hyperscalers. And they're oftentimes called channel partners. They may be Microsoft partners or AWS partners or integrators or managed service providers or tech agencies. And so I want to be clear that when I'm talking about an ideal partner profile, to expand your thoughts to, it's not just going to market with a hyperscaler, which may be very hard to get traction with when you are small and emerging, but there are hundreds to potentially thousands of partners who have the right customers to represent your products and solutions to their, to their feet on the street, to their customers that they service. So I want to just make sure that they understand that being intentional at that level and going and thinking beyond the hyperscaler, it's almost like everyone says, well, how are you going to bring the product to market? It used to be, I want to get on Oprah, well, in technologies, I want to work with Microsoft or Google or AWS. And there are so many other partners that can get you there. And I just want to make sure it's right.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I think that's also a great a reason why there's so much conversation about ecosystem too, right? And why this is so important, why it's complex, because you've got the sort of the umbrella of the hyperscalers and other, top tier partners to engage with. Insight's a great example of one. But there's also the ecosystem that you affect within your own realm of opportunity with customers. And those things all sort of have to be strung together. So I'd love to move us to our next question, which is let's talk about lessons from the front line, right? So any examples or stories of challenges that you faced when you've been working through some of these B2B partnerships, and the things that maybe were key lessons learned. I think there was some discussion in the last answers to some of the questions, but to the first question, but also what was the magic sauce or the element that you wish you would have known to have made that more successful? And why don't I go ahead and, Dina, I think you had a story you wanted to share to get us kicked off.
So I have a million of those because a lot of our customers share their stories. But I think a universal story is that when we're focused in on a specific solution, whether we're enterprise or a small emerging technology or something in its growth stage, we forget when our job is solely focused on our own solution, we forget that we are part of a stack and that our partners are not 100% focused on our technology or our product that we're bringing to market. And so anything we can do to give and not take, give first and take next, as well as make sure we show them where we fit in to their technology stack, where we fit in with their customers, where we point out to them and stay in front of them so they know that you as a product exists there and are additional incremental revenue and opportunity for them. So I see that as a big one, is that people put blinders on and they forget when they think their product is so cool, they forget that it really is just one piece of a bigger puzzle.
Yeah, love that. Remember the stack.
I would is my audio better?
Much better.
Okay. Okay, good. Sorry about that, folks. I want to add to Dina, and I'm trying to jump in here with my new audio. But in addition to the stack, there's also thinking about what are client barriers to migrating to that stack.
Yes.
So I've had experience in the past trying to build an end-to-end hardware software solution. On paper, it was a great alternative to existing customer solutions. But when you added in the cost of migration or the cost to basically execute that change, it blew up the case. So we ended up needing to bring additional partners into the mix to make it happen. So making sure to keep your eyes on actual client requirements and not, I think, Dina, you might have said it, not just my product is amazing, but the practical client barriers to getting there.
Excellent point.
Yep. So if I could take that forward, what Allison just mentioned, saying, looking at what your client infrastructure is, what is their current ecosystem, and then making the decision of picking the partnerships. That's when real challenges come in. We heard in the first few panels that B2B partnerships are like walking on a tightrope. There are a lot of overlaps, and that's when you have to think about picking the right partner which fits into your customer's infrastructure, your environment, right? We could have best of the partnership with few of them, but what is the comfort that the customer has, or what is that their current infrastructure which needs it, right? So I think that's also plays a good amount of challenge, but I think there are a lot of opportunities as well over here.
Yeah, that plays into the ideal partner profile, right? So
Absolutely.
you may know someone at a partner company that you love and would want to work with, but if they don't have that expertise in the integration into that ecosystem of tools, you're wasting your time.
Correct.
And I think, once you've established that kind of ideal partner, right, profile, and you're in that partnership, one of a piece I think that's super important is really, you can do a lot together, right? We could do a lot together. We could focus on a lot of different segments. We could execute in a lot of different ways, but, there is limited time, money, energy, resources, all those things. So like, where do we focus to drive the most impact? And I do think that that's keeping that front and center in just overall go-to-market when you're ready to take it to market is super important and helpful, right? If you can kind of stay focused on those, 1 to 2 to maybe 3 areas where you really believe it's going to drive the most impact, is it a good lesson learned, right? Instead of, you can't do all the things, right? Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, right? Because I think if you're starting out as a solution, you usually have something very specific in mind. You've got a customer in mind, you've got a scenario in mind, like you've got that defined, and now you're just trying to find other channels to sell through, and hopefully you've got some great B2B partnerships to do that through. The other way around, though, when your services, right, it's like you've done everything. You've chased down all kinds of opportunity. Usually you're trying to get to a managed service destination of some sort. And so the fault there is that you come at it with a very broad message, oh, we can do anything. And it just dilutes how you select your partnerships and how you represent each other in that engagement. So I'm curious if, as we're thinking about customer and what the customer needs, and how to sort of shape, our own offerings aligned to customer pain points. Where are some of the best sources you've seen in how, business decision makers, people who are looking for partnership opportunities, find what is top of mind for those customers, that the market insights to make a decision about what vertical or segment or geo to pursue?
I'll jump in here, and I don't know that I have a magical answer, but the closer you are to speaking with your clients every day, the better, right? Client. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. And patterns start to emerge, right? So that's one. And when you're thinking about your client, something that I'm not as good at as I should be, but I have a lot of colleagues who are excellent at this, is pouring through investor day reports, pouring through, basically company annual meetings, any kind of information that gives you signals about, okay, what are boards thinking? What are, priorities are buried in those reports. And there are patterns, right? There are patterns. And then finally, and I think somebody said this somewhere, but if you have partnerships, comparing notes with your partners helps to triangulate a lot. of how people, not only what the word is on the street, but how are other companies interpreting it? Because sometimes other companies interpret directions differently based on the same information. So you might get another angle you weren't thinking about. So those are where I would start. I'm sure you guys have other good suggestions.
Well, I have a platform that profiles companies, profiles partners. And
there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Right. I mean, what we typically like to do is say, let's feed in and profile your best partners. And then let's see what they have in common, and let's see what surfaced this quarter or this year versus last year, or even this month, but typically it's not as fast as that. And as you can see how the best partners are evolving and where their focus is and where their expertise may be shifting to, you will learn a lot. And for example, in the cybersecurity space, 2-3 years ago, no one was talking about zero trust. No one was talking about app security. And now when you look at who's in that space, at least on the partner side of things, it's the buzzwords, it's the keywords. Everyone is moving in those directions. So you can gain a lot of insight by looking at what your partners care about, what they're learning about, and educating themselves about, and what they're marketing to their own, prospective customers.
Excellent. These are all great sources of insight to just inform your decision. And I think, with the Partner Optimizer tool in particular, you're constantly sort of evaluating your own ecosystem to make sure you're investing in the right way and fortifying those relationships where it's needed. So great plug, Dina. Useful, very useful. So let's talk about the way that we show up with these hyperscalers who have thousands, if not tens of thousands, and in some cases hundreds of thousands of partners in their ecosystem. What are your recommendations for differentiating and showing up as a very strong sort of B2B ready partner to engage with? Dina, we can start with you, but I know we keep starting with you, maybe I can refer to Nadi or Kate to kick us off.
Sure. So I would say using this ecosystem of partnerships to your benefit, especially when you're listening to your customer's voice. Let me clearly jump into it saying that, this is what Insight is doing today. We have 6,000 plus partners, and the way we position ourselves is we call ourselves as solutions integrators. We don't go out and say that, these are the services, why don't you pick something out of it? Today, we talk about customers' problems, looking at business outcomes that are going to matter to the customers, going back to our ecosystems and picking the right set of partners. And this is where I think you're able to build out the differentiation which matters to your customers, right? We have hardware partners, we have software partners, we have services and the hyperscalers that we jointly couple with. And when you bring all of these together, because let's face it, we no more hear from our customers where they come and say, I need this app, or I need some data migration. The conversations themselves have changed, right? Today we talk about how are you going to predict my patients' stay in the hospitals, or what are we doing to improve the productivity at my XYZ plant, right? And this is where working with the ecosystem of the partners to get that benefit which matters to the customer helps. Yeah. So that's about us. I'm sure for Dina or Allison could be different.
No, I was just going to say, I think a few things, and I've seen some of my team in the past have done an excellent job at this. And this is just approaching partners and differentiating yourself as how am I a good, person to work with, or why work with me? Kind of simple. Like, one is just come with a really strong point of view. I see oftentimes where people just want to come with like, here's clients we're working in. Like, we should work together because we're both working in the same client. And it's like, well, why? Everybody comes to me with a list of clients that they're working in. And so coming with a really strong point of view for what, the more specific, the better. Why we need to work in here. We have either this benefit, this relationship, whatever it might be. And then also, this might be really, really basic, guys, but just being clear and to the point and not trying to be too cute or too sophisticated. I've had good success. My teams in the past, we approached a potential partner at their conference, and they were like, "Ugh, not another one of you. You know, not another person trying to get on my calendar." And my rep at the time, he just went in and he said, "Boom, boom. Here's what we want to do. This customer. This is why. Here's what we're doing. We're here to make money. We don't want to try to do a big campaign. We just want to do these two things. Can we work together?" And they were like, "Oh, thank you. Thank God." You know, like somebody showed up with just a clear point of view, specific action, and a way for us to engage. Because you know how those things go. People walk away and they never get actioned. So just clarity, simple clarity has worked for us in the past.
I agree with Allison. I think it doesn't always need to be this huge thing to start, right? It can be a very focused, more kind of sales play, right? Specific motion, specific objective. And I think too, the other piece that really helps there is alignment to, you know, what does collectively owning our yes as a partnership look like, right? Like what does success look like? Because every company measures that a bit differently. And so we have to translate each other's goals a bit to align on, you know, here's how we measure. When we bring those together, this is what it would look like. And I think that's a huge part of setting ourselves up for success in partnership is aligning on how do we measure, what are we measuring? Because, you know, we manage what we measure, right, together. So I think that's another key part of it.
Yeah, related to that, I think directly related is understanding how each team are incented and how they go to market,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like who's selling, who's making decisions, what are they measured on, you know, who cares about what. I had an old mentor that he said this phrase to me, maybe it'll stick with you guys too, but he was coaching me to think about how to get better traction with a, you know, particular product. And he was like, you got to figure out how to get blood to all the organs. Okay. You got to get blood to all the organs and the thing will, you know, take on a life of its own. And that goes directly back to what Kate was saying, which is how do we both win? How do we align? It takes a lot of the friction away.
Absolutely.
Just maybe just to follow up on that comment. So you know, the best conversations are coming from partners that know their offer, know specifically the customers that we believe we can win together on, and what exactly you need, right? Access, funding, you know, technology, whatever it is. Like you have that very specific, so they know what to do with you. I'm curious if there's anything you know, there in terms of creating that simplification. So, you know, it's, you know, something that, you know, you believe partners, if they could just come in with an artifact, an offer ready to go, something that would assure them to, you know, have that follow-up or be able to kind of secure what they need out of the relationships with these hyperscalers. If you have any wins or comments about that.
I don't necessarily have on that question, but I have more kind of to add on what was saying before, which is that the other, you know, all our panelists mostly have the lens of being that big system integrator or consulting firm that selects the solutions to bring to the customers. And if I were to talk from the lens of being a software vendor or a technology vendor who's looking at your companies as ones to partner with, I think that some of the advice is to do your homework and figure out which ones have the space in their tech stack to fit you in. And you make sure that they understand why and who you are and what your technology is that's different and better and why they should even spend time on you. A lot of times we've seen where a SaaS company thinks that they got in the door because one of the end customers pulled you in to a relationship and required you to go through one of these hyperscale partners. And then you realize after you did all that, that there's no one there that's championing you as your product and solution, but the customer was, and it got the customer done, but there was no path to continued adoption within that partner company, that system integrator. And so recognizing that you need to find those champions and land and expand, and not just stick with one person that you may have known. Otherwise, you will lose an enormous opportunity for adoption if you just leave it there.
Wonderful. All right. Well, it looks like we're getting the hook. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your insights. This is an ongoing conversation and the reason why we even have a Women in Cloud community. We see that there's new signals coming in from every hyperscaler. There's new opportunities to engage at an ecosystem level. And there's a real need to sort of understand the language, the incentives, the compensation structures, like all the things that help us to build a smart B2B relationship from the beginning. So thank you, everyone, for sharing.